Hey guys, so in today's lecture, we are going to discuss costs, various energy costs, that what are the costs of fuel cost and power cost. So, we are going to discuss that. Then, we are going to discuss benchmarking, that how we can compare our real time data with the benchmarks, how to set that benchmarks. So, that we will discuss benchmarking, and then we will see few energy metering devices also. So let's start. So we'll start with first energy costs. So two types of costs are generally involved in any company. First is fuel cost, and other is power cost. So energy costs are not fixed costs. It reduces significant. It can be reduced. We can reduce this cost, but in order to reduce this cost, we need to understand this cost. So energy cost can be understood by metering it, means by knowing how much energy is used. So if energy meters are not available, then invoice of energy can be used to create awareness about energy bills. So two types of cost we are going to discuss. So first is fuel cost. So fuel cost may consist of coal. So if you have a boiler in your company, then coal may be a fuel cost. Then uh, diesel, petrol. So if you have a generator, diesel generator or petrol generator, or if you have vehicles, if you're using vehicles, then also you will use petrol and diesel. So petrol, diesel, then LPG, CNG. So LPG and CNG can be used as a cooking fuel also, and it can also be used as a heating fuel. So in heating applications, if these fuels are used, so that may also be considered. Then wood is also considered as a fuel if it is used for heating applications or any other. So this all are the fuel which are used. So pricing of fuels are done in mainly in, if coal, then tons, and if liquid fuels, then in liters. So factors should be considered before procuring these fuels. So availability, so whose availability is easy. Then cost, so if availability is easy, then cost may be high. Then quality of fuel, then transportation cost of the fuel, and calorific value, that how much heat can be produced from such fuels. So these three things should be considered: availability, transportability, and calorific value. So these three things should be considered for fuel cost. Then next is power cost. So power is used in every applications. So power is very much important, and this cost can be reduced by knowing, or by knowing this cost. So the price of electricity in India also vary from state to state. Means if you go from Delhi to Gujarat, then price may vary, but also in city to city. Like in Ahmedabad, we have torrent power, while in other regions we have different providers like MGVCL, PGVCL. There is a GEB. So their cost is different, Torrent's cost is different. So it also vary from city to city. Though it does the same work everywhere. So many factors are involved in deciding the final cost of purchasing electricity. So, what type of costs are there in deciding the power cost? So, first is demand energy charges, maximum demand energy charges. That is how much connected load you are having. That that is fixed demand charges. That this much demand you have required means you have, but it is not necessary that you use your full demand, but how much demand is required, so that is maximum demand charges. Then energy charges, then second is energy charges. So how much unit of energy you are using, so that much charge you have to pay, so that is energy charges. Now electricity is also different, uh, is are different. So that is power factor charges. Like if you're using single phase, then the charge will be different. If you're using three phase, then the charge will be different. If you are industrial, then charge is different. If you are residential, then charge is different. If you are farmer, then also charge is different. So in such a way also, the power cost is decided. Then other incentives and penalties applied from time to time, that in some states, so using electricity at night may be incentivized, and for three phase, and using it the day may be penalized. So that type of charge also may be possible. Then high tension tariff and low tension tariff rate charges are also there. Then slab rate cost and its variation, that if you're using up to suppose 100 units, then you have different energy, you have to pay different energy cost. If you're using about 250 units, then different energy charge you have to pay. So that is a slab rate. So that may also vary. Then tariff also may vary from developed to underdeveloped areas. Like if uh, if there is a poor village or a poor society, so there the tariff may be given very low. Or if, even if there is a SEZ, so where the development is not there, the SEZ is given to special economic zones, so to develop that area, so there also the rate may be low. Then tax holiday for new projects, that is if government is having some schemes that you will get a benefit uh, for new projects, so that may also include help in reducing the cost. So this all are the cost, power costs, which are determined, which will determine the uh, cost of consuming electricity. So these charges you need to understand before reducing any cost. So these were the costs which we need to understand how it is charged. Now next topic we are going to discuss is benchmarking. So how we are going to benchmark our processes, that is if it deviates from the benchmark, then we need to set it to the benchmark. So what is the benchmark best way that process should be done, that is benchmarking. So we will see one by one. So we will see the definition of benchmarking. So the definition of benchmarking is the process of comparing energy performance of an individual plant or entire sector of similar plants with any standard or optimal energy consumption. So why we are doing benchmarking? So benchmarking is done to get the idea about the standard values, that how good it can be performed. So industry, and based on that attempts are made to meet that benchmark. The benchmarking can be internal or external. So internal benchmarking means the comparison carried out between different plants, while the external may be comparison carried out between industry of having same products. Like if to AC manufacturing industry, so we compare both with each other. So in that way, it can be benchmarked. Like Voltas is compared with Higher or any other company like Mitsubishi. So that is benchmarking. So we will follow three approaches for benchmarking. So first is to evaluate an entire industrial sector. So here the comparison of an industrial sector is done by comparing with same sector in the globe. So whole globe may have different conditions environmental, but then also we are comparing. So comparison includes the future performance when the latest technologies are used with the current performance with current technologies. So also the growth of sector is assessed. So that is benchmarking. Then second is evaluate and plan within the sector. So in this approach, the comparison of individual plant is done within the sector, means the comparison is done with individual plant. So which parameters we are going to compare? So what is the overall performance of the sector? That one question we need to ask. Then second, how individual plant is performing according to compared to other sector. Then third, how individual plant is performing compared to any benchmark industry. So these three questions we need to ask ourselves. So that is evaluate the plant within the sector. Then the last is self-defined benchmarkings. So nowadays many companies do not want to rely on other companies' data or sectors' data. So they decide their own goals for achievement based on records. So this is a good benchmarking because different companies and they must have different environment and different criterias. So each and every sector or even similar industry cannot compare their data. It may be problematic. So you need to have uh, different data. So certain fixed percentage of improvement is set as a target from previous year. So internal benchmarking is performed in order to set any target. So what type of parameters we need to compare in uh, self benchmarking? So first is gross production in terms of power consumption, that how much power we are consuming and how much we are producing. That is first relation. It is plant capacity utilization. Then second, efficiency or effectiveness of the plant, of the equipment. So how equipment is more efficient, so that we need to find. Then third is electricity bill of the previous month or a year, comparing with self data. Then specific power consumption. So specific power consumption, how much power is consumed. Then output data compared with the standard data of manufacturer. So how what manufacturer has given standard data, that at what power it will consume, how much power it will consume, comparing with it the manufacturer's data. Then rate of scrap material. So how much rate we are getting for the scrap or waste material. So these are the benchmarking, self-defined benchmarking. So benchmarking will not be free activity, is costly process. So which costs mainly incur in benchmarking? So there are total three costs. So first is visit cost. So it includes hotel. If any person is coming for benchmarking, then we need to stay him for the hotel, travel cost, meals, and uh, till he is visiting, the labor is not working, so lost labor cost and time. So there is visit cost. Then time cost. So members of the benchmarking team will be investing time in problems, finding solutions, so and implementation. So it will take away our regular task which we are performing, and additional staff may also be required. So that is the time wastage. Then third is benchmarking data cost. So uh, organizations that institutionalize benchmarking to their daily procedures find it useful to create and maintain the database of companies associated with best practice. So other filing work and need to create more data, so that cost will increase. So we need to store that data, we need to save that data, we need to encrypt that data, so server will be required. So all that cost, that storing the database, so these all three costs are required. So this cost of benchmarking will be reduced through utilizing many internet resources that have been used very from past years. The aim to the benchmark are best practices, that organization uses very best practices. That is our goal, that uh, they are more efficient and not uh, losing so much energy. That is the main goal of any organization. Then the next topic is plant energy performance. So how we can find a plant's energy performance? So the plant energy performance is the process of measuring the consumption of energy for a particular plant or an equipment, or the whole, or maybe whole industry. So in this process it is checked whether as the energy consumption is increased or decreased from the previous time period. So in case of measurement of energy performance, any reference year will be taken. So, so this will evaluate that is there any sudden change in the electricity consumption, or there is an effective implementation of energy management. So that all data can be found out. So if there is sudden increase in energy consumption, then we need to find what are the reasons behind it. And if there is sudden decrease in the energy consumption, then we need to find that our energy management practices are working or not. So that will come under energy performance. So so there are total four methods by which we can improve the energy performance. So that we will see in next lecture. So there's a definition that is called production factor. So what is production factor? So production factor is equal to the ratio of current year's production to the previous year's production. That is known as production factor. That how much yield you are year on year yield. So that is production factor. So it should increase every year. Then your company is growing. So that is very important factor. So we'll see methods to improve energy performance in the next lecture. So thank you very much.